But the whistle blows.
We stand for the prayer and the pledge, please. Father God, we thank you right now for your goodness and your mercy. Bless your name, because your name worthy to be blessed. Father, as we go, we come humble and submissive to your will and to your way. We thank you right now, Father, what you align our eyes to hear, see, our ears to hear, and we bless you for that. Father, we're just so thankful that we're in a country where we can call thy name without any reproach. And we thank you for that. Father, as we go through this meeting, let us make the best decision for our county, our city, and our country. Then bless us, Father, as we go through this. We thank you for what you're going to do and what you've done thus far. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And as always, before we begin, we do have a few housekeeping items. Conference line has been set up, and the line number is 1-917-900-1022. The access code is 3234 7 Poundtown. This is not a toll-free number. You may be subject to long-distance charges according to your long-distance plan. When the chairperson opens the meeting for public comments, please follow the below instructions. If you wish to speak, please dial *5 The moderator will unmute your line when it's your turn to speak and notify you by announcing the last four digits of your telephone number. Please announce your name and address, and you will be allowed to speak for 3 minutes. Any person wishing to address the board regarding an agenda item will be given 3 minutes for comments. A commenter may speak only one time for each agenda item. And with that being said, do I have approval of the agenda?
Motion to approve the revised agenda.
Motion second, all in favor, say aye. Okay. And that item was 15, I believe it was from 1 to 2. Person to be appointed. Okay, the next thing on the agenda is the consent agenda. Does anyone see anything on the consent agenda they need to take off or talk about?
Motion to approve.
Motion second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, bids, we go down to number 11. The board to receive proposal for roadside right-of-way mowing in Taylor County, Florida, set for this date at 9 a.m. or soon thereafter as possible. I believe this is the bid and the public hearing. You're gonna have the bid first or the public hearing first? Public hearing?
Yes.
Okay, it's now open for a public hearing. Anyone like to speak forward to this? Or do we need to have-
What item are you on, 11 or 12?
11.
So we can do the bids first if you want.
Yeah, we'll just start from 9:05 anyway.
So we'll do the bids. So we got two bids for item number 11 for the, roadside mowing. Carry Fuel Lawn Works and A&R Lease Services LLC are the two bids that were submitted.
Thank you.
So the first one we'll open is A&R Lease Services LLC. And the price for A&R Lease Services LLC is $33.85 per acre.
How many acres are there?
I believe it's 1,100. Mr. Chairperson, while the clerk is looking through the proposals, I did want to inform the board the bid committee will be Hank Evans, Kenneth Dudley, and Scott, our superintendent,
Who?
Scott Knight.
Scott Knight.
All right, and the bid for Carry Fuel Lawn Works is $37.87 per acre.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, we discussed back, a while ago that once we got these bids in, that we would compare that to what it may cost to hire our own crew. So have you've got that information together?
Yes, ma'am. The labor cost for 4 employees with single employee-only insurance is $155,282. That does not,
$155,000?
$155,282. That does not include the equipment, the additional equipment that we would need to purchase, which would be probably a little more than that. Just the off the cuff, when we look at the additional equipment we would need to order, is the first year would be over $300,000 total between the labor cost and the equipment cost. Now, of course, that's, you have to look at that as a long term over the lifespan of the equipment. But that would be, from what I understand, that would be the initial investment. If we purchased, 4-wheelers, batwing mower deck, additional mowers, trailers, a farm tractor, and items such as that.
Okay, that seems to be considerably more than what we probably are looking at now, even though the purchases would be, would be on, well, I don't want to say a one-time investment because those things do wear out.
They do.
So, and there's no way to get by with any less than that,
I don't believe so, because when I sat down with our Public Works Department director, the county, our crews mow over 1,200 acres. And then the contract amount is around 1,100 acres. So the county crews mow just as much as the mowing crew would mow. So I don't think we could get by with the equipment we have on hand, only because once the growing season starts, it's all in use, from what I understand.
and during the growing season, I can see where we need more people. Of course, during the winter, it's different, but
It is.
I was hoping that it would certainly look different than this, because that would have given us 12 months of crews working to pick up trash, for not mowing and everything, but this is a big differential.
It's more than I anticipated. Once we sat down and looked at it, the equipment cost was more than we anticipated.
And I'd just like to make sure that whoever gets this contract does the job in such a way that we want. I get complaints every day almost now of what we've had, with one strip of mowing down the road, just a lot of inefficiencies in terms of the public's input.
Well, what I would recommend is that the mowing, that the bid committee look at the bids and bring it back to the board at the next meeting, because we do need someone to get started very quickly.
We do, but we just want to make sure that it's wrapped up so that they're doing the job that we expect, which I don't think has been happening.
Just one suggestion is, can you, or will the board be willing to accept the recommendation that the apparent low bidder, it be awarded to the apparent low bidder contingent on them having met the bid specifications, so that knocks out 2 weeks of Hank's lead time?
We still need to bring a contract back to the board.
My bad, I didn't know it wasn't in the package.
I'll look at that, but I'm not, was it in the package? Okay.
If it was in the package, then that would just be a ratifying after the fact, wouldn't it?
I believe so, since it was.
I just know he said that he
know.
needed to get going, and that would take 2 weeks out of the picture.
Okay, do we have a contract we don't have a contract in
We have a
place?
contract that was included in the original bid package. I wasn't sure about that, but I'd just like to verify that it was in the original bid package. If it was included in the original bid package, then we can certainly bring it back to, if the board would like to award contingent upon them meeting all of the qualifications that are in the specifications that are in the original packet. At worst case scenario, we do have a workshop next week that if we needed to have a special meeting, we could do that as well.
To address any irregularities, right?
Okay.
So who oversees the job?
Mr. Evans?
I make a motion to approve the low bidder contingent upon all these agreements being met.
Motion second, all in favor, saying aye. Okay. All right. We will go to number 12. The board to hold a public hearing set for this date at 9:05 a.m. or soon after as possible for the proposed ordinance amendment ordinance 2000-10, 2004-8, 2005-3, 2015-1 to provide for changing the number of district commissions of Taylor County Coastal Water and Sewer District Board from 7 to 5. Public hearing, do you want to read by title only?
Motion to read the resolution by title only.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor, say aye.
Good morning.
Morning.
Ordinance of Taylor County, Florida, which amends ordinance number 2000-10, 2004-08, 2005-3, 2015-01, Chapter 66, Special Districts, Article 4, Taylor Coastal Water and Sewer District, Section 66, 145, Governing Body, which created the special water and sewer district in the area of the unincorporated Taylor Coastal Community to provide for a change of the number of district commissioners from 7 members to 5 members as required by the District Board of Commissioners, provide for severability, and provide an effective date.
Okay, so now, this is the public hearing. Anyone to speak for or against? Seeing there's no one from the public, any commissioner have something to say about this?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor, saying aye. Oh.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Okay.
Commissioner English?
Yes.
Commissioner Moody?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes. Oh,
Commissioner Beagle?
Yes.
And Commissioner Dent.
yes. Okay. Constitutional officer / other government unit. John Durrett, attorney.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. John Durrett, I'm your state attorney here in the Third Circuit. And Ms. Pemberton, thank you for adding me to the agenda. I appreciate y'all allowing me to appear before you this morning. The purpose of me being here is to address with you the potential to enter into a new memorandum of understanding concerning a lease extension for the space we occupy over on Drew Street, Consolidated Communications Building. In 2016, the state attorney's office signed a lease with Consolidated Communications for a period of 3 years. Beginning rent was at $1,300 per month. At the end of the 3-year period, it was agreed that there could be a 5% per annum increase. The present rent of that facility is $1,504.91. The memorandum of understanding was signed previous in 2016 by my predecessor, or my predecessor's predecessor. And the chairman at the time, I believe, was Ms. Feeble, and agreeing that the state attorney's office would pay rent that Taylor County would reimburse and provide for electrical services, the utility bill to go to the county to be paid, as well as custodial services. What I'm asking of you is for us to be able to enter into a new memorandum of understanding. And I will be in talks with, Mr. Bishop, your attorney, as to prepare a new document. I will submit just in form and content identical to what we had before, albeit with a change in date, to reflect the new lease extension agreement. It's for a period of 3 years. As I indicated, present rent is right at $1,505. The proposed extension given to us by Consolidated was for a 5% increase, and that making the total rent per month $1,580. That's for a 3-year period of time. And just my personal opinion, in the market that we have around the country right now, I believe it to be very reasonable. What's been put forth by Consolidated, the space that Taylor County has provided for the state attorney's office has been more than satisfactory. All our people are quite satisfied with it. We thank you for doing that, and we appreciate that, and we love being here, and we continue to be. And with that, that is the extent of my presentation, my request, and I'm open to answer any questions anyone might have.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
It's nice to meet you, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you.
LaWanda, some time ago, our tax collector, Mark Wiggins, had mentioned about him moving out of the courthouse at some point in time. He indicated that he was interested in doing that. And and this is something that the board has discussed in the past. And then if the tax collector moved, then at that point in time, then the state's attorney's office could potentially move back into the courthouse. It would be, nearer to the courtrooms and everything. So my question is, what's going on with that? Is he still actively looking for a place, or did he say he had found a place that he was interested in?
I believe he had, but I have not received an update from him in some time about that. I mean, that's something that we can certainly, I can reach out to him and ask him.
Yeah, the only thing is I just, I want to be cautious if that's something that he's going to pursue, that we don't tie ourselves up into 3 years with that.
Conrad?
Let me just say a couple of things. Number one, we agreed in the memorandum of understanding to extend this another 3 years. That's what the memorandum that Mr. Dredd is talking about. Number two, having been to the building that the state attorney has, there are numerous offices in that. And they're, because they need to talk with people in private. And the only thing that I think about that is I wouldn't want to work in there because I'd want an office with a window. But what I'm saying is I don't know what the renovations would have to be done with regard to the Mark Wiggins' office there, because you've got to have these cubicles or these and if I'm saying anything wrong, John, just tell me.
Yes.
What we do there now is, for instance, in a criminal case, I go and talk to the assistant state attorney there. They're kind of scared to come to my office because it's the old jail and I won't let them go. Then secondly, they also have conference rooms where you can take depositions, and I'll let John talk for himself with regard to that. But we're kind of in what we agreed to back 3 years ago, as a practical matter. So then what? Everything's open to negotiation, and if we got into a pickle, I think we could probably negotiate something with the state attorney. But I think we're kind of locked in on this one.
Well, it sounds like it's a good fit the way it's going.
It is, it really is. I mean, it's close to the courthouse. I don't know whether they drive to the courthouse or walk, you know, I do a lot of walking. I drove this time, but usually I walk to the, I walk to the courthouse, you know, good exercise, and so forth. And, but like I said, it's the utility of that building, and as far as I can see, as a practicing attorney, is very good for them. And what we used to do when the state attorney's office was in the courthouse, we had to go to the grand jury room to take depositions, or they'd come to my office to take depositions, or we'd do them in the courtroom, you know, and lock the courtroom door and that sort of thing. So it's not so much utility as you think, them being in the courthouse.
Well, it sounds like it's not broken, let's don't mess with it. And if our tax collector decides that he's gonna pursue, his, moving in the future, then, that will be separate from this. Let's just keep things, as far as I'm concerned, the way it is, and I'll make a motion to approve.
One question, before you do that, there are terms in this memo of understanding that would allow the county an out.
That was going to be my question to you, Conrad. If say, a year from now, or whenever, the tax collector can move out and renovations can be made, is there any type of exit clause in the existing lease agreement with Consolidated that would, if we gave them 6 months notice, or, whatever number?
Not that I remember reading it.
I could not locate a copy of the original lease agreement, so I was not sure.
I mean, they did extensive work on the building to accommodate it. And the other thing is too, and I neglected to say this, I'm a landlord, and landlords in other areas of the state are raising rent just astronomically. I decided I'm not raising any rent, because my folks that rent my place just can't afford it. But this is a raise of rent that's not great, and we agreed to the 5%, and so did the gentleman that was the state attorney at the particular time. So I don't, well, I said what I said.
So the question would be then, is there a way to include that in this agreement? Because if the space frees up and you've got space that the county owns that could be utilized for that, it would make the most sense to me to not pay rent, but to utilize your own space.
That would be up to the state attorney.
So would you be open to having that kind of a clause or agreement
It'd
in this memo of understanding?
have to be agreed to with Consolidated.
Yes, Consolidated would of course have to agree to such a condition.
Is there a reason they wouldn't do that?
I wouldn't.
I believe they probably.
Well, glad you're not representing Consolidated. Thank you very much.
No, I'm not representing Consolidated, but you asked me the question, and I'm gonna answer it,
Sure.
But
But you understand the value to the county and the taxpayers for having that kind of agreement?
Yes, sir.
Perhaps we can review the original lease agreement and see, since.
Sure,
since
and I
we
do
don't
have
it-
copies of it attached if I could tender to everyone, or
Sure.
to Ms. Pemberton, however you'd like for me to disseminate them. I have, one for each.
Thank you.
You have the extension as well as the prior memorandum of understanding and the initial lease agreement, at the tail end of it. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
thank you.
And with anything moving is always quite an ordeal, and there was a great amount of manpower and resource that went into making that existing office space meet the needs of the state attorney's office as it relates to potentially occupying Mr. Wiggins' space. I cannot say. I know that inevitably would involve some renovation, probably. I couldn't say exactly, but of having an agreement in place wherein it's locked at a a reasonable rent in my estimation, given the proximity to the courthouse and everything contained therein, as well as we've increased 5% by these previous year-to-year extensions. And we're quite satisfied with the space that's been provided and have no issue with it whatsoever, being it right by the courthouse, a block away. So,
And have you had any issues with like air conditioning going out? Or heat, did they take care of it?
I mean, well, like anything, there've been problems that come up, but they've always been taken care of, yes, sir.
And they did that at their own expense?
Yes, sir.
Well, you know, the 5% is something is unheard of right now. Everything I hear coming out of the South and Central Florida, 18% and above. Rent increase.
It is true.
Like some of them, people having to move out of the place because they can't afford it.
Yes, sir. And that would be my fear as it relates to year to year. I mean, no one can say for certain what the market dictates, but, and I don't know what the market is and what consolidations, idea would be. I know they presented us the extension of the 3 years, and that's what we had the first time around, and it worked well. We're now 6 years into it.
But it looks like this is current until November 30.
The existing, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So then there would be time to explore if that's existing or it's not a possibility,
Where's that?
without jeopardizing your current
You
situation.
look at page 6. The lessor may terminate, it's at the bottom of the page, y'all. Lessor, that's consolidated, may terminate this lease on 60 days written notice to the lessee. The lessee shall terminate, blah, blah, blah. So they got, they can terminate it. So we could say to them, we agreed to, let's say attorney agreed to that at that particular time. It'd only be maybe fair to say that the state attorney could terminate within 60 days.
Okay. That's the A part of, 17.
Yeah, if you look on the bottom of page
Yeah.
6. So, the suggestion might be, if y'all, and if the state attorney agrees, that, you just give them a call and say, would you agree to that? If they say no, then we go forward, It's a practical matter, and that would satisfy your question.
Yes, I would like to do that. I can make a motion to do so if that's necessary.
Well, there's a motion on the,
I have a motion, my motion stands.
there's a motion on the floor.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
All right, in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Welcome.
Mr. Clerk, can you repeat the motion for staff? What was actually approved?
Yeah, the motion was to, approve the agreement with Consolidated and the state attorney.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Go to item 14. Representative from Swanee River Management, Water Management District, to appear to discuss project proposals for the Resilient Florida Grant Program.
Good morning.
Morning.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, my name is David Christian, and I'm an engineer with the Office of Ag and Environmental Projects at Swanee River Water Management District. I'm here today to ask for your support on an opportunity to partner with Dixie, Jefferson, and Levy counties to apply for the Resilient Florida Grant Program to develop a regional resiliency plan. Statute 380.093 and the 2021 Florida statutes established the Resilient Florida Grant Program through the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. The first round of grants for resiliency plans were awarded in February of 2022. Dixie County was awarded a grant that was supported by the district for work being done by the University of Florida and Locklear Engineering. Dixie County is now working with the district and UF, along with Jefferson and Levy counties, and Wanda and John here in Taylor County, to apply for the second round of grants to create a regional plan. The application for the second round of grants is due June 22nd, 2022. This is the plan being supported by the district, which has allocated $80,000, and the University of Florida. What we need from Taylor County for this regional plan, first off, $0. Second, a list of known critical infrastructure and locations. Third, a list of known state or federal critical habitat areas for threatened or endangered species, and anything important or unique that Taylor County wants to share or have considered in the plan. And finally, we need a Board of County Commissioners letter of support to enter into a regional plan with the other counties. Since Dixie County received the fiscal year 21-22 award, they are going to be taking the lead on this project. If this grant gets awarded, UF will be doing flood modeling of the 4 counties and including the effects of sea level rise and increased storms in the years to come. They will then look at the modeling results and how they relate to the critical infrastructure in areas that you identify. There is then another round of money that will be awarded for fiscal years 24 through 26 that will be used to address the infrastructure in the plan. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you. Mr. Wonder.
Okay, so I'm just going by memory, and John's taken the lead on this. I sat in on the call last week because John was attending the hurricane conference. But will you remind me of the expanded scope of work? What is the dollar value? Is it 800,000?
I believe so. I need to ask, honestly, Leroy Marshall, who's my boss, he's the one kind of heading up the district for this. And then Dr. Peter Sheng over at UF and Dwayne Cannon down in Dixie County. And so I can check with them on the exact dollar amounts.
I believe the gist of it is that Dixie County was awarded the grant originally. They will be moving forward with their portion,
Correct.
but we'll be submitting an expanded scope of work to include the other counties in the region, including Taylor, if the board agrees. And the dollar value would be expanded so that this modeling effort could be accomplished.
Right. I believe the Dixie County one was 200 and some thousand.
Yeah, I was thinking it was going from 200 something to 800 something or something.
Right. And the idea is that the modeling's already being done in one of the coastal counties, and we'd like to expand it. It's really looking mostly at the coastal areas and just trying to get a plan in place so that when money becomes available to help with protecting infrastructure, that infrastructure is listed in a plan and the money can be available to that.
And then if I'm not mistaken, after the plan is complete, then there could potentially be a second round of funding that would help mitigate whatever.
Correct, exactly. Yeah, and that's part of it is, just making sure that, I know with our projects, if it's not on a list and somebody comes and says, hey, what about protecting this? Well, it's not on the list. So this gets it on that list and has the modeling to back up that, this fire station, this police station, that sort of thing, or that water treatment plant, the modeling is saying that this is important, and given sea level rise and greater storms, that could be in danger in years to come. And so it makes it a higher priority for funding that come.
So is the focus more on critical infrastructure as far as local government, or does it include other? I saw there was a list of critical infrastructure, so I wasn't exactly sure how far this study would go. If it could potentially impact, our any type of rating community rating that we have, if it is going to assess resiliency or any type of vulnerability for residential areas, or is it primarily focusing on critical infrastructure, for example, fire stations, water treatment plants?
Right. I would say that it would be for other infrastructure as well, but again, I need to,
I understand.
Go back and then make sure about that. As far as ratings and all concerned, as far as I know, this isn't like a FEMA flood map, so it's not that sort of, affecting, flood insurance or anything like that.
Okay. So this is assessing more potential vulnerabilities due to.
Exactly, due to sea level rise, due to increased hurricane activity, that sort of thing.
Are there a list of restrictions?
That's another one. I'll have to, Yeah, what I'll do is I'll take all of your questions down and I'll email Rwanda and yeah, you can send it all out to the commissioners. So, yeah, I can check on that for you as well.
So can I ask a few questions?
Sure.
Awesome. So I'm kind of in a quandary. So my perception is that there's some expectation that you're quantifying the effect of sea level rise on existing topography and infrastructure.
Correct.
But yet what I thought I just heard you said that it was not going to be comparable to the FEMA flood maps. But yet that's what a FEMA flood map does.
Right, but, we're not, I don't believe, as far as having an impact on flood insurance, I believe that's completely FEMA. That's not this. So what this is doing is they have, for example, they've listed out all the hurricanes that have come up over the past few decades. And I believe they're going to increase the intensity of those storms. They're also going to look at projected sea level rise, I believe out to 2040 and 2070. And then using those, they project what the storm surge would be, what the flooding inland would be. And then they can use that to determine how vulnerable different areas are.
You can see, I hope others probably expect this as well, is that at the point in which you begin quantifying risks, there's a natural extension that goes into an insurance realm. So my question is what is the objective of this study? Is it literally to figure out what is at a perceived greater risk if the sea level rises?
I believe, I think FDEP has to come up with kind of resiliency plans along the coast for coastal county. And so what this does is this helps them to identify infrastructure that, is either vulnerable now or will be vulnerable in the future. And that then can lead to the money coming to help protect that infrastructure. I see what you're saying about, if an insurance company gets hold of this, and it's different from what FEMA does, I'll have to ask, Leroy, he works with FEMA. He's the one that works with all of our FEMA maps through the district. And so he would be able to give you a much better answer as far as, is this something that, could be used for insurance later on? That wasn't the impression that I've gotten, but I can check on that for you as well.
The second thing is that you were mentioning various amounts of monies. I think you may have mentioned 800 or something like that, 800,000. Where does that money go? What is it used for?
That would be going to the modeling at this point, the modeling and then the analysis of the model. Dr. Shea has done this type of modeling in the southwest part of the state. And I can send you links to the models that they've done.
So we're just a funnel.
The money's, so the sponsor is Swanee River Water Management District. So they're basically sponsoring the project.
Right.
And it's on behalf of the 4 counties. So we would not receive funding. With the funding, is that your question, where the funding goes?
Well, there has to be some reason they're asking us about it, because I'm assuming we have to be the applicant and the money is funneled through Swanee River to the consultant.
So Dixie County is the applicant, correct? And they're just expanding their scope of work to include the other counties in the region.
Right. So for this additional grant, it would
Right.
be, I believe all 4.
So we don't have a signature obligation in this arrangement?
I don't believe so. I think it's just to agree to.
Just to provide a letter of support,
Yeah,
to agree
to support.
to be a participant as far as providing information back to Swanee River Water Management District so they can complete the modeling.
When I first heard about it, the natural jump, and I'm typically a pessimist, is that this type of information, it just walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, that eventually it's going to be, because it's a risk quantification, it's going to have an eventual impact on property owners' bottom dollar cost for being in those areas. That's recognized today with the updated modeling with V-zones as per se, with slosh maps, that this is only one, in my opinion, one more measure that is very hypothetical, given the intensity modeling that you were recommending on or suggesting, referencing with respect to the hurricanes, that people need to have their eyes open, that when they see this, there may not be an impact tomorrow, but this is definitely laying, in my opinion, laying the groundwork for a potentially huge cost. Some of the numbers that I saw in there were as little as 1 foot to as much as 7 foot. That's a huge difference. And as soon as you start quantifying that risk, 7 foot in our topography is a tremendous amount of acreage.
That was the range, correct, Ken?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it wasn't 7 foot, just to,
It was 6.6 something. I just, kind of
with the potential range, not to, one area could be 6 foot or another area, so.
It was a low to high range, and
Low to
it was
high range.
also a projected time frame. I just know that it went from 0 up here to 1 down here to, I don't remember up there, to 7 down on the bottom right. And that's in your slides that are right here, that you can look at it. My only reason for saying something is I really wasn't sure what your objective is in doing this, but it really kind of has the color of quantifying a risk that is going to be used by somebody, and that's scary.
Yeah, I mean, it's through DEP. Well, I can check on it for you. I can try to get, better understanding of, what's happened down in South Florida with the modeling that's, been done like this. And that's really.
Is that when it was first implemented, it was 2021?
I believe that was when, this set of grants was, first initiated by the state.
So what happened in South Florida just happened last year?
No, I believe that was a different grant. Yeah, because these grants only came out, I think, in February of this year.
I know the district historically has worked with the third-party contract people through FEMA as part of the map updates through the years.
Mm-hmm.
And you did not foresee this data becoming a part of that working relationship.
I can't promise one way or the other, but, FEMA has their ways of doing things. And FEMA, as far as I can see, watching Leroy work with FEMA, it's pretty strict as far as what they do and how they do it. And so I don't think that, first off, the model would have to be accepted by FEMA. And, that's the first step, and I don't know if it's been done.
Well, I read the caveats there where, you can't find anything that doesn't exceed existing data. So, I can't see it not being a consideration, future map updates, and the way that's written, I can't see how it can't in fact our folks negatively, possibly.
I can ask Leroy, and he can either say, yes, it could be used, or no, it won't be used for these reasons. He's really the expert on it for us.
The intent is for this to end up being a completely separate independent plan. It's not going to require any actions on our part with our comprehensive plan, flood mapping, or anything.
As far as as far as what I've been told, really the important thing right now is to get a list of critical infrastructure and any areas that the county would deem worthy of getting on the list, to be put into a plan that could access, funds for that.
It sounds like you got a good plan going there, but you're not working for the insurance company, are you? You know, it's global warming and all this stuff comes up and the water rises, that means, as the level rises, that means it's gonna bring more people into the floodplain, right?
Yeah, I mean, as the water comes up, people are gonna move back from there, you're gonna have the floodplain increase and you're gonna have more people in it, so.
And if I could interject, and John may want to speak to this, but I think from your standpoint, the bottom line is if there's potential impacts from sea level rise, or any type of enhanced risk of flooding, we as a government entity, we as local government, need to be aware of that potential so we can make plans and we can protect our infrastructure. I think what we don't know is if a result of this type of study could impact, future development or insurance rates for our coastal communities.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, insurance.
So really, there's two different ways to look at
Is there
this.
any way we could find out if there's a negative impact in the future in this matter before we?
Well, that's, whenever we had our first group meeting, as far as the county EMs and Swanee River Management, whenever the doctor was on there and he was giving us some preliminary information, just one of the things that he said that 1 foot of rise brings in the flood amount 1,000 meters. And then whenever he started speaking about, like Kenneth was saying, the 6 point something feet and what that could mean to us in 100 years, that's what has me really wanting to participate in this, is exactly what LaWanda said. As far as emergency management goes, and as far as everybody else, we need to know what is in our future now, relative to insurance and all that other kind of stuff. That's somebody else's wheelhouse. But as far as us and how it's going to impact how our county is going to be impacted, not just critical infrastructure, but also our beach communities and stuff like that, we need to know. And, whether it be 6 point something feet or a half a foot, it doesn't matter. I mean, especially if we're not having to come out of pocket and we can get some valuable information.
And that's exactly why I just made comments at all, is because there is a desire to know what a potential impact is. But I bet you a dime to a dollar that at the end of this project here, they're not going to say, okay, so this is what everything could look like and set it on a shelf. That work product will be used to do something. And obviously at that point in time, it has quantified a potential risk based on the assumption in that study. And those risk people out there are going to incorporate that into our risk aversion, which is flood maps and insurance rates.
I agree.
And it would be irresponsible not to raise that to the board as a concern.
I think the thing we need to know, that we need to know. What's going to happen in the future, what's predicted.
Whether we like it or not.
Yeah. Okay. So what you need now from us, John?
What I would need is if the board agrees, I would need a letter of support for the regional plan. I can put you in touch with Dwayne Cannon down at Dixie County if, that would put put your minds to rest or, at ease. Or I can, have Leroy contact you or Peter Sheng or.
Okay. But did you say something about $200,000 Dixie County got, for a study
Right, so,
and Ford County, you said something about $800,000, like $200,000 to come to Taylor County, some kind of way.
I think that's in our packets. Under funding requests, it looks like the total project cost is $874,838. I don't recall the original amount that Dixie County, has already received. It's somewhere between $200,000 and $300,000, I believe. But the total project cost is $874,838 for all the counties within the region.
You said, Mr. Marshall would be willing to kind of quantify what the exact use is.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and like I said, he's the one that, he's our FEMA expert. Actually, he's at a floodplain management conference this week or the year.
What is the deadline for the letter of support? I thought it was a pretty quick turnaround.
Yeah, the deadline for the application is June 22nd. So, I don't know when your next board meeting is, if, you want to, hold on.
June 6th.
June 6th. So, yeah, I mean, if you would rather, get additional information, and, one of us can come back and, depending on what Leroy's schedule is, he might be able to come back and answer a question.
With the workshop, if they're available.
And then we could have a letter of support on the first agenda in June. We have some time.
Okay. Thank you all for your time.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to say, I really appreciate staff, participating in this. Your input's very important to me.
Now, staff items. Board to consider reappointment of 2 members to the Taylor County Planning and Zoning as attended by Danny Granite. Building official. Dan, you got something to say about that?
Now, we had 2 agree to be reappointed. We've had no applications for any new board members. We're losing 1, so we'll have 6. Obtaining a quorum is becoming increasingly difficult with the planning board. We had over 24 people in here at the last meeting with no quorum, so they all had to go home, and I don't know the answer to it. I kind of like this drop down to a 5-member, like Taylor Coastal did. But
Jan, Donnie Pickford and Earl Kettering, the one you want us to appoint?
Donnie Pickford and Earl Kettering have agreed to be reappointed.
I'll make a motion to appoint.
Motion second, all in favor, saying aye? Got 2.
If you know of anyone that may be interested in a position on the board, please tell them to come forward.
Are you seriously suggesting that it be lowered to 5 instead of 7? Because that's something we can look into.
Yeah, volunteers are not getting easier to find as time goes by. And by reducing the quorum requirement to 3, I think there may be some benefit to that. A 7-member board would be a good idea if it was still acting as a planning board and planning future amendments to comp plan, but that's not what happened.
What you want us to do?
Approve the appointment and then we'll consider the other.
But going forward?
I'll probably bring it back up. This time we'd have 6 members.
Okay.
So we'll try to find 1 more and limp by if we can. But
Do you have something in place for members that are routinely absent, just like you had all these people the other night, you didn't have a quorum?
now, we don't have a trigger that says you missed this many out of this many, so you're gone. Can't afford to. They're all volunteers. They have to sit and go through some pretty harsh treatment periodically. It's a lot to ask, and they don't get paid, so, you know, if they have a conflict, it's just something you kind of have to accept.
Do you feel like maybe we can watch it for a little while, and if we need to bring back to the board the question of reducing the number of members, we'll do it at that time?
Yeah, we'll hope for the best, and then probably come back.
Okay. We did pass that one, didn't we? You got the two? Go to item number 16, the board to consider approval of amendment to the Florida Department of Transportation. Public Transportation Grant Agreement Financial Project, big numbers, and adoption of authorizing resolution for the Perry Cole Airport design and rehab for runway 12-30 lighting and signage project as agendaed by Melanie Cox, the grant writer.
Motion to read the resolution by title only.
Motion second, Bishop.
Resolution, whereas the Taylor County Board of County Commissioners and the State of Florida Department of Transportation have determined that it would be in their mutual interest to facilitate the development of the herein described property at the Perry Foley Airport, to wit, Perry Foley Airport Design and Rehab Right-of-Way, RW Right-of-Way 12, that'd be runway 12-30, light and signage amendment to grant agreement for financial management project number 43667-1-94-22. That's the best I can do on that
Approve
one.
the resolution.
Second.
Motion second, saying aye.
Aye.
And then I guess you need a motion to approve the amendment.
Yes.
Motion to approve the amendment?
Second.
Motion second, is that a roll call or?
No.
Okay. All in favor, saying aye?
Aye.
Okay. Got what you need?
Yes, sir.
Okay. 17, handicap. Oh, Melanie?
She said thank you.
I just said thank you.
Okay, good, all right.
You're welcome.
17, Dan Castle Apache, to appear to provide update and discuss options for the fire station number 2 construction project.
Good morning, everybody. As you're familiar with, we went out to bid for Station 2 after receiving a state appropriation, and the bids we were short about $608,000 from what we received from the state. Since then, we have gone back and we have played with the floor plan, tried to see what changes we can make to see if we can lower the cost. We can probably lower some, but no kind of substantial amount to that cost, unfortunately. We've looked at other funding options. We've gone back for another state appropriation request to try to get the rest of the money. We are just swinging and missing left and right on this thing. So where we're kind of at right now is we as staff, we kind of need some direction on where we want to go with this, especially as we're preparing budgets for the future. As we can see right now, our first option is build the fire station, try to get it down as cheap as possible, but we would still need additional funding in next year's budget to continue with that project.
How much?
I would say up to $608,000.
More than what you've already?
Yeah, the 580. It was little over 1.1 million is what the low bid, and we would have to go back out to bid on those again. And
That question was asked is, could we staff it? And that was probably a no at the time. Are we still?
that would be moving forward into the upcoming budget, what we would budget for positions in next year's budget.
But we currently do not have enough
Yeah,
positions.
right now,
to
there's
staff
no
it.
free positions to put in there. We would have to budget for new positions. Which I will say, needed positions.
Well, that's due to the growth
Yes.
into the area and
Our call volume as a whole, I mean, off topic a little bit, but our staffing does need to start increasing. A couple years back, we gave the multi-phase plan of saying this is the growth that we need to start doing for our staffing in the fire department. Just kind of a snapshot of it. I mean, we are double the call volume we were 10 years ago. It's a lot more, and it's not all run and make calls. That's house fires, vehicle fires, brush fires, vehicle accidents. As of the end of May, we will probably run as many calls this year at the end of May as we did 10 years ago for the entire year. So we are running a lot more calls. We're seeing and it wasn't just like a high spike year either. There's a steady trend that it just has gone up a little bit more every year. So staffing is something that we do need to be looking at and adding more staffing. Limited manpower on these fires, and especially being stretched, we're seeing more and more fires that if we go to a house fire and we're there for 3 or 4 hours, it starts a countdown clock of how long do we have until the next one comes in. And sending 1 or 2 people to a fully involved house fire in the middle of summer is not safe for anybody.
If the station was there and it was budgeted for staffing, could we staff it? Like, would you have an issue getting the station staffed?
We're short one right now. We're not grossly under. There was a shortage in the fire industry here over this last year. Personally, I think it has a lot to do with COVID. There was a lot of people that were leaving and retiring through this time period, and all the fire academies throughout COVID they weren't holding classes because COVID. There was no in-person, and you can't do a fire academy online. So what we saw there is for that year and a half, there were no fire academies going on in the state. There were no EMT classes. There were no paramedic classes. So we went into this area there where we used up all of those people that were waiting for jobs, and now we're waiting for these classes to get caught back up and filling up all those positions. So you're seeing that there are people these positions are starting to fill, and it's starting to get better. There was a slow period, but yes, I think come next year, I think if we had those positions, we could get it filled.
That's the only reason I asked it. If we go come up with $608,000 and you got to stay, you're a nice station sitting there, and then we look at the public and say, well, we got the station, but we can't staff it.
Yeah. And the other, going back to the station, but not the staffing of the station. So the one option is to fully fund that we do the construction like we originally anticipated. The other option is we could start looking to buy something and modify it. Buy an existing building, put bays, or buy something that has bays and put living facilities in it. Not saying it would necessarily be, a complete wash and it wouldn't cost any more money, but it may be more affordable. Market's up on that too. Hopefully that bubble pops soon. It's been ridiculous. But that is another option that we could start looking into. We haven't really walked down that path quite yet because we were focused on trying to find additional funds. We were trying to say, how can we modify this to get it back in the budget, and it's just a...
I have one question. What about the engine that would be housed there? Is that to be purchased?
We have an engine already because we have current Station 2, which is housing a truck, so that truck would be moved over.
So it's adequate to move, and what would be the lifespan of that?
Next year, in our 5-year capital plan, we are slated to buy another engine next year as well on the capital plan. So that would go through in that fleet and retiring out some of our older vehicles that have more age and miles. And that could potentially go to that station or wherever it's best suited based. Once we look at the age of all the equipment, what's got the most mechanical issues.
Vehicle or vehicles, more than one?
No, we have one on this upcoming year.
Dan, how long do we have to expend the grant? Do we have another 2 years, or is it longer than that now?
I think we have between 2 and 3 years.
Okay.
Is it possible that could be funded in the next cycle, the remainder?
The next grant, state appropriation, we could do another request.
We don't know.
But it would be more feasible versus having to settle for or downsize to something that might not work out in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, it would, obviously, what I would really love to do is build a station that we need for not just today, but the future, something that it's going to suit us for a long time to come, so me or future me isn't standing here saying we need to replace Station 2. But my only concern with doing out of state appropriation, like I said, I'm for it. It's just another one of those we may or may not. It's just like we did it on this last round. It may not be funded. And we do at some point, because the state does check in and say, well, what's your status on this project? And our status updates have been, we're seeking funding. So, I mean, we can continue to tell them we are seeking funding, we are looking at options and opportunities. We're not giving up on this yet, and I don't think we should. I think we should continue to push forward. Fire service needs new fire stations. We need a strong fire service for the safety of our citizens.
I agree with you. I think if we're gonna do a fire station, let's do it right. Let's look to the future and keep that in mind. And, for me, I would like to see what happens in the next session. It seems like to me, since they've already allocated this, and that's not enough, that they would be more apt to, come up with the rest of the funding, we would hope. So that's what I would like to see us do, build a fire station that you think is for the future, and let's just lobby our legislature to, get the rest of the funding. If that doesn't happen, then we have to, go through another plan before the time runs out.
And we can continue to look, for additional funding sources that may come up, and I mean, from time to time, we get something, there may be grants that come available, something. So, we're gonna continue to, not put all of our eggs into that one basket. It would be continuing to look for anything. Big thing is, like I said, I would ask that we don't give that money back. I think we need to proceed with something. But like I said, the big thing is today is asking the board, giving us some direction for where you want us to go with the construction of this.
Yeah, and at some point in time, we're gonna have to make some serious decisions concerning fire protection. Because I know in my community of Shady Grove, that community is growing, and the volunteer firefighters are aging out, and there are not any more that's rushing to take their place. So, to meet the needs of our community, we're gonna have to do some serious looking.
We have struggled with our current volunteers are great and they're dedicated, but they've been doing it for 20, 30 years. And as far as the future of the volunteer service, it's kind of like Danny was saying earlier about his volunteers. It's hard. We tried to hold a volunteer class here this past year. We started with, I think it was 5 of them that were interested, and we never got to finish because we were done. We couldn't keep the class together. And through the time and time, we've modified that program to try to make it easier and do this and do that, and we're begging people to, and it's just hard. And it's not a Taylor County thing, it's a fire service as a whole. There's a lot more hours to go into training, and you have to do continuing education. And I think a generational thing. I think, the younger generation maybe doesn't, we'll talk to somebody that's younger and say, you want to be a volunteer fireman? They say, sure, how much does it pay?
That was gonna be my next question. In the communities that do pay their volunteer firefighters, how much more successful have they been at, being able to, get more volunteers?
You might be able to, and from what I've seen, before I moved here, I was in a department that did that. You might be able to hold on your volunteers a little bit better. It doesn't really draw them in too much because it's usually just a stipend. There's numbers that you can't go over before it becomes a part-time employee. So you can give them reimbursement for their costs. So if they had to drive to scenes that you're saying, look, we want to cover your gas money, things like that. So it does help to retain some of your volunteers, but there's really not a big enough dollar value there to draw in like I said, you're kind of giving them a whole wash there, and we do a good job already on covering uniform costs and their training costs. And, you know, we provide all of that. If we have a volunteer that's an EMT, we cover their CEUs for their training, so this way they can keep up their, you know, their certification with no cost to them. So we do a good job of trying to give little things to them to, you know, try to incentivize it a little bit. But it's just, and like I said, and our current volunteers are great. They, like I said, you could probably ask any of them, you know, who used to live in this house 30 years ago, no, they're gonna tell you. But no, like I said, they are great, and we just don't have enough of them. And like I said, as they're getting up there and they're more limited on what they can do, they can't necessarily put on an air pack and run inside a burning building and drag somebody out anymore. I'm not exactly an old man, but it's getting harder and harder for me every year, it seems like. It's definitely young man again.
Let me ask you another question too. If someone wanted to become a firefighter today and they approached you, where would they have to go to school?
As a career firefighter?
Yes.
They would have options. They could take the class. There's one in Chipola, there's one in Tallahassee. Those are more nights and weekend classes. And if they were trying to do it, and they said, I just wanted to get it and get it all and be done, the next option would be Ocala. That's I think a 6-month program, and they walk out with everything that they need to be a fireman. And I think there's another class in Lake City.
Okay, so I wonder what the possibility would be with our Big Bend Technical College. Have you spoken to them about a program? And
They would take a lot of money for them to be able to do that. Before they have to be accredited through the state fire marshal's office. So they have to build the entire facility, have everything that they want to do to become a training center. And they have to build it all with the hope that they get approval from the state. And that is several millions of dollars, and the equipment and everything that would have to go into it. It's usually like in Tallahassee, where you see Tallahassee Community College, they don't have their own grounds and everything. They're in partnership with TFD, and they use their training facility, and the educational part goes to the college, but they use a facility that they have there. To become a training center, there's a lot that goes into that.
Well, since we're workshopping this item, I would like to understand with staff, given growth, given expansion, and given the risk and time for response. Of course, we're talking staff positions in Steinhatchee and Keaton Beach. But given that expansion down there and elevated homes and all those things that are coming with that, I would like to see a plan moving forward to have 2 staff positions in those places so that we have a greater chance for extinguishing those fires before everything's put aloft. Looking at how things are growing and developing down there, looking at the elevations, there's some continued, not just expansions of population of buildings, but the risks that come with that and the loss.
I would agree. I mean, if you look at I don't have it right now, but our call volume in the coastal area is nothing but steady, you know, like everywhere else. But it has had the great rise, and there has been a boom of development. I'm never going to get argued to say that we need to have a 2-man crew in both of the stations. I would agree with you wholeheartedly. And if we go back to that multi-phase plan, part of that was, and when we added the paid people in Keaton Beach, the original request was also to have a second person in Steinhatchee, but for the cost of it at the time and how much it was going to cost them, we had to raise. We only got the 1 position, and that's where we added the Keaton position.
Well,
we can't do a cost.
I think, you know, the statistics and call volumes are obviously driving all those demands, but, you know, we continue to see all that. I really, unless they ramp up.
I would suggest that as we look into the future, we would steer away from having 1-man stations. I think a 2-man crew is much safer for the crews, and I also would say they are much more effective on the scene. I think 1 man is better than having no people there. Obviously, that's a gimme. But obviously having a second person, and I've been in that situation where I've worked on 1-man crews, 2, 3, so on and so forth. You can get a lot more done with a second set of hands, where one person's pulling a hose line or pulling the tools, the extrication equipment to a car, and somebody else is at the truck, turning on the truck, getting the pump going, or, turning on the extrication pump.
Certainly, there's the work side of that, but then there's the risk side also of having that second, option.
No, like I said,
There's
it's-
multiple facets to it, is what I'm saying.
yes. We really went on painting on this, didn't we?
Okay, now you said you were looking for some direction. You got your direction yet?
I think, let me clarify, so what we want to do is we want to continue to look, we don't want to go for different designs or whatever, we want to try to build this to the initial, what we wanted, and we're going to continue to see if we can find additional funding sources.
That's it.
Yes? Thank you.
I would only just say to reserve like at least a 12-month time frame from when this
For
grant is due to expire, so that you have sufficient time to solicit, award, and instruct.
Well, that's why I asked how long we had left on the grant.
Yeah, I
So
think we could probably do another state appropriation request cycle.
we have enough
I
time.
would be hesitant to try any more than one more.
Okay.
Because it was originally 5 years,
5 years from the award,
which was,
a little over 2 years.
I think we have 3 years remaining. So if we go through one more cycle, then we would know a year from now where we are, and that would leave us,
Time
That's
to-
your drop dead.
Give us time to, we would need time to budget,
right.
go back out to bid, actual construction, I mean, it would,
Well, that would leave us 2 years, if I'm correct? If we-
I'll verify that, but like I said, I think we have up to 3, or right around 3 years left, it might be just under.
Okay.
Okay, so we've been awarded how much?
580.
580.
585,
No, 580.
huh?
580.
580, and we need how much more?
With the last bids that we got, we need about 608,000.
608.
And those bids were received, how long ago?
Since July 20th, 2020.
It's almost a year ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we don't know if we
So-
bid it out again, we don't know which direction, it could be higher.
Yeah, I mean, in an ideal situation, and next year, the, inflation, everything's been remedied, and wood is now cheap again, and that would be great. But let's, we'll have the optimistic side of me talking there, and then the reality of the situation is it could continue, we don't know.
Well, if we, if we ask for 608 again, even if we were awarded that, then we'd come up with a differential
We
somewhere.
would probably, when we go to request again, add more than 608, just
Didn't we ask
there.
for around
700,
700?
I think.
Yeah, we asked for more than that last time,
Okay,
just-
700 then.
or somewhere around there, so we wouldn't.
We anticipated that there may have been more inflation since then, and when we do the next one and so on and so forth, we'll try to anticipate the best we can to margin inflation in that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Trustee,
Wow.
county attorney, items.
Yes, sir. This is the ongoing opioid. This is Walgreens, and it's in your packet, I think, that I got a email from Mr. Romero with regard to a settlement of $683 million with Walgreens. And they're gonna send us a check for $683 million. No, I'm teasing. But again, it's another one of the ones that, they say we need to go ahead and agree to the participation agreement. The one thing that caught my eye on this, and I'm gonna hold it to him hopefully, he says, if you go ahead, you need to sign this agreement by June the 3rd, and that was under item 1. And then action item 2, settlement funds will be wired to you with initial payments beginning in the near future. What's the near future? Please provide us with your W-9 and the wiring instructions for the account where the settlement funds should be sent. So you will not receive your settlement funds until you provide this information. So my suggestion is that we provide this information ASAP and then hold them to it. Let's see if we can get some money from it, because we've been signing these agreements on all of these various lawsuits, and we have not received any money yet. So I want to see some fruit off the tree. So that's my recommendation.
Motion to go ahead with this.
Motion second, all in favor, say aye. Okay. You got the approval.
Thank you. I want to come back and say that we got some money.
Administrator,
Well, we do have some good news. We have received a notice of award for the Hodges Park rehabilitation. We are working with, and I would like to thank Melody, Jamie, Kenneth for all their hard work with submitting this grant application. I'm very pleased with the results, obviously. We are working through the special award conditions now to make sure that we can comply. As soon as staff finishes that review, we will ask for the grant documents, and we will put those on the next available agenda.
This is so exciting. We started working on this, 2 years ago? At least. And, at that time, or maybe it was even last year, I don't remember now, that I believe that we said that this project potentially could start after this summer, because we didn't want to start it, so that it would interrupt the summer season. So is that still feasible?
I believe so. We have, it depends on when we actually receive the contract, but we also have a Land and Water Conservation Fund grant that I believe, don't you think we can at least start working on some elements pretty quickly after the summer season, I would say. I know we have to prepare bid documents.
Possibly if you were going to use some of that 100,000 that I saw that was earmarked as being exclusive of construction for some possible limited demolition, that's something that could happen relatively quick. Other than that, it would be more of design, permitting, and construction preparation versus actual, shovel in the dirt.
I will say that I think I advised the board individually that I was asked to play a part in the Gulf Consortium Policy Review Committee, which has been very educational, I will say. We have completed our policy review, and all the amended policies will be on the agenda for the Gulf Consortium meeting at the end of June. That was a very educational process. I will say that staff's responsibility as far as managing these grants is very involved, and will take a great deal of effort. So Melody has been attending different webinars in order to prepare for that, and that's something that, we'll have to watch these special conditions and these policies very, very closely as we move through this process.
I had mentioned a meeting or two ago, the possibility of looking for another boat ramp location. What do we need to do with that?
Well, I would say, I think the first thing I need to do is reach out to the Balmoral Group and ask what the process is for another SCP amendment. I do know that when we read through some of the policies that, there may be a point where we'll have to actually contribute financially for SCP amendments, but I have no idea what that cost would be or what that impact would be at that point. I would say if the board's interested in an SCP amendment, I can reach out to our Gulf Consortium folks and see if I can get an updated timeline, what that would involve, and then when the board's ready to discuss it, and give some direction to staff, we can go from there.
That would, in my opinion, would be a good start. I'm hearing from lots of people, the need for additional boat ramps in addition to what we're already working on. That's coming up daily with me almost.
So, what we are anticipating at this point is that, we have 2 grant awards that we're waiting to hear on. One of them is the bypass feasibility study. And from what I recall, just off the top of my head, the bulk of our funds that we have not identified through grant applications, we had set aside for possible bypass construction. So that's something that we would need to look at, as far as if we want to move ahead with the feasibility study, if we know we want to change our SEP and change that amount, for bypass construction. So I think where I need to start is I'll need to go back to the Gulf Consortium, see exactly where we stand, and, that's something you may want to consider as far as a grant award. Now, another possibility is that if we move forward with a feasibility study, that we may want to utilize, try for a different funding source for actual bypass construction.
Yeah, and, I can't help but wonder if we had another boat ramp, how that would affect the need for a bypass. And I guess that would require a feasibility study on its own because who knows? I guess that would depend on a lot of factors.
I think, Steve, actually, the boat ramp's not gonna impact traffic that's there. I mean, it'll help in some regards to keep beach, I believe, but the traffic's in Steinhatchee. I mean, you can put another boat ramp wherever you like, you're still gonna have an impact in that particular area. And I'd be more than glad to, with the feasibility of folks to have at it, but I don't believe they're.
I don't think we could anticipate any other outcome,
No.
As far as Steinhatchee, and I guess at one time, we did have a plan, or we were discussing more of a regional type, boat ramp location at Hagen's Cove, and then there was, the board decided they wanted to go a different way.
I wish we had not done that, but hindsight's 20/20. And I don't know what the impact would be, but, without the feasibility study, you don't know if it would relieve the traffic in Steinhatchee or Keaton Beach. I mean, we don't know that.
You're gonna have to build a boat ramp where you gotta come out already existing, I'm sure.
And that's exactly.
Nobody's gonna dig a canal out of Hagen's Cove, I'm sure.
I need to get together with you on that.
And then I can do some research and bring it back to the board.
What about that? I thought I keep hearing, Spring Warrior.
So we have a grant application for the acquisition of Spring Warrior. That is one that we're hoping to receive an answer on soon. We have that application we're waiting on and the feasibility study. So the first one that we submitted was for Hodges Park rehabilitation. So we're just waiting now to hear back on those grant applications. Hopefully we'll hear something very soon.
I'd like to ask Commissioner Moody, are you getting any feedback from your constituents at Spring Warrior? I understand they don't want an RV park. Are you getting feedback in terms of a boat ramp?
Some people, against having anybody down there in the Spring Water, just like they all beach areas, but you'd be surprised at the people that go down there, and they come to Perry and spend money out of Georgia, everywhere to come down there, so, I mean, it's a plus to have a boat ramp down there. People will, most of the people down there use their own private boat ramp, they got a boat ramp on a private piece of property. When everyone I talk to use that other boat ramp, they don't even use a fish camp ramp, they call it. The fish camp's there, the people, the new owner there, and they're still using the boat ramp, and, I mean, if we can get that boat ramp, it'll be a plus for the county,
So you don't anticipate a lot of.
I don't anticipate a lot of problems with that, really. Now they are against, like you mentioned, they are against the trailer park down there. I got a lot of feedback on that. I mean, they up in arms about that, you know. That meeting the other night that the board had here was a good example of that. There was about 20 people in here to throw down about that trailer park.
That's what I understand.
Just as a housekeeping item, I just wanted to remind you that there is an annual 2022 EMS Week celebration that Century Ambulance is hosting. It's May 19th from 11 to 2, which is on Thursday.
Is that for the ceremony or just for the celebration?
I'm not sure what they have on the agenda, but last year's was very good. That's all I have, thank you.
Okay. We go to item 19, comments and concern from the public. Non-agenda items. Anyone from the public? No one online? No one from the public? Okay, we bring that to the close. Board informational items. Mr. Newman. Commissioner.
No.
Stevens.
It's an honor and privilege for me to serve. Thank you.
Okay.
One thing I wanted to say, Ms. Beagle had a thing in here for, milling those roads, you know, and that was approved more or less. If we have roads in our district we want to mill with it, all we have to do is ask for it and we can do it if we have the money in our fund to do it.
If you look at the guidelines.
I did, I looked at the sidelines.
So the guidelines said exactly that.
But in the past, there was a fellow dying because he couldn't, breathe at his house, and he's done dead and done buried him now. But, we didn't want to use no milling at that time. So it kind of bothered me to see, you know, we're gonna use milling again, and with, the man really needed it.
Well, Commissioner Moody, if I could interject, this is for so this would be following our policy, which would be milling the entire road, not placing milling in front of one individual home or using a hopscotch method.
And I don't think we're comparing apples to apples. We milled a whole bunch of roads in your district down at Strickland Landon, I believe. And from what I hear, that's turned out well. But I recall that we said that we did not want to just put milling in front of someone's house and leave the rest on each side of that as a line walk road. That's what he's referring to, but what I'm trying to do is no different from what you did.
What we did was, our county grader operator took a paved road and turned it into a dirt road. And we had to mill them roads down there, or them people, every one of them people on that road would have been suing the county. Because our operator run the grader down it and took the pavement that was there and turned it upside down.
Yeah, but still, we did milling, and you say it's worked out well, right?
It did,
Good.
but we got a trailer park going to be built at the end of it, looks like.
Oh,
At the
what?
end of, that trailer park is at the end of that milling road. And that's the only thing wrong with building a milling road. You're gonna have log trucks. I don't know if log trucks are gonna be going on the road
Yeah.
you're gonna mill. But you don't wanna put a milling road where you're gonna have log trucks coming and going.
I took responsibility to check all that out. I wouldn't just ask for something, would not have checked into it. And there's no, heavy traffic. There's not a lot of traffic. There are a lot of houses on these roads, but I feel comfortable in moving forward with this. And, I appreciate you bringing it up at the end, though.
There's no planted pines on that road. People gonna be cutting, there's not, Four Rivers don't own property on that road.
The what now?
Does Four Rivers own property on that road where they cut timber?
No.
Okay. That's what you're gonna watch for. You don't want a road where you got a bunch of log trucks gonna be running back.
And
there.
I made sure that that's not the case.
Good deal.
Thank you.
Okay. Is that all?
That's it.
Okay.
adjourn. Second.
I'm sure you're familiar with my camp. Fundings.